So one of the nice things about putting this conference together is we get to meet people that we didn't even know existed. And as we've found people along the way, some of whom you've heard and some of whom you'll hear in a few minutes, this next group is one that came highly recommended to us when we said, well, we really want to find out more about what's happening in the area of trauma and survivors of torture. This organization was recommended to us. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves as they go along. Our group today is the Western New York Center for Survivors of Torture. And they will be presenting for us, I'm told, which will be a very interesting group of activities and presentations. So we'll take it away.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, yeah. I'm Pam Caffey, and I am the Director of Program Development and Integration at Jewish Family Service in Buffalo, New York. And one of my primary responsibilities is the development of the Center for Survivors of Torture. I thank you very much for inviting us to come today. This is very exciting. I find it ironic that I happen to be in Amsterdam at a conference when I got your email inviting us to this event. I'm going to just do a brief introduction, and then we're sort of all jumping in and out of the presentation at different points, and we have some things planned to help all of us begin to better understand what is this work, who are the people that we work with. So the Center for Survivors of Torture is part of larger immigrant services. So we do refugee resettlement, we have parent support programs, we have health home, care coordination program, career services, and then the Center for Survivors of Torture. So, and I tell you this because a lot of the questions that have been popping up may be things we can help people talk through as it pertains to refugees coming to the United States. We're very grateful for the presentation prior. I think that set the tone perfectly for the things that we're going to discuss. We may repeat a few things or expand upon some of the concepts. How do I move this forward? Is it? Yeah. Okay, so before we get into Leon's, I just wanted to quickly go down the line, ask you to refer to the bios if you want to learn a little bit more about each of us. But Leonce is a care coordinator at the center. He comes to us from Rwanda. He's our newest member of the team. He is a psychologist back home. Salah is our project coordinator, and he's been with me since the beginning of the project. He has extensive overseas NGO experience. We're really lucky to have him help keep our data in order and all of our protocols in place. Amela is a care coordinator. She comes from Bosnia originally, and she has a background in community mental health. She also owns the best restaurant in Buffalo, which I have to tell you, sorry. She's a very busy woman. It's an incredible Bosnian restaurant. And Ali Kadam is a care coordinator at our program, but he's also a mental health counselor at a local mental health clinic, which is a wonderful sort of integration for us. And Ali, he's from Iraq, did I say that? He's also the president of the Buffalo Immigrant and Refugee Empowerment Coalition, as well as the Iraqi American Society, which is also a nice integration because it helps us really make connections with the ethnic-based community organizations, which are critical to our success as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Leonce.
Good morning, all of you. Thank you, Pam, for the introduction. As Dr. Sharma discussed earlier, we have many refugees with trauma history, or that still have trauma. So we're going to take you through some definitions we're going to be using. Those people have been exposed to war, political violence, and torture. So our center focus more on the torture side of it, even if we don't exclude anybody who have been in a traumatic situation, but we focus more on people who have been tortured back in their countries. Those people have been living in regions affected by bombing, shooting, looting, and forced displacement. Some of those have been soldiers themselves or also child soldiers, some who have been child soldiers, guerrillas, and other combatants. So they have many traumatic events happen to them back in their countries. But when they come here, they got services as other refugees, but they have the other dark side that needs to be addressed. So that's why we are there. There are two definitions of torture. One definition is according to the UN, but the US has its own definitions. We're going to talk about the difference at the end. A torture is any act by which severe pain or suffering, whether physical or mental, there are two sides of it, the physical and mental. When that act is intentionally inflicted on a person, it means intentionally. It's not accidental or a coincidence, it's intentionally inflicted to that person. For which purposes? Obtaining from him for information, for the person himself or a third person. Sometimes you have the person tortured, like the kid tortured for the parents to give information, or vice versa. For a confession, especially in political situations, punishing him or punishing the person on the behalf of a third person. So punishing the parent for what the son have done, and the son is not there, so they have to torture the parents for the thing that the son have done. And also in order to intimidate or coerce him or a third person based on a discrimination or of any kind. And that when such pain or suffering is inflicted by or an instigation with consent or acquiescence of a public official. A public official has to be present or have to commend the act of torture. So that's through the definition from the UN, or a person acting in an official capacity. That doesn't include pain or suffering arising only from lawful sanction. If it's a lawful sanction, they don't consider it being torture. For the US definition, we have all of that, but the person tortured have to be in custody or physical control. So that's one thing that the US have added. We define the person as a victim of torture for the US definition if that person have been in custody or physical control. So Pam is going to come back here again and take you through an exercise that's going to let you understand what is it like to be a refugee, and what it takes and what are the problems those people have when they arrive here. Then after we're going to continue to develop. Thank you.
Forgot to get these out. Okay, so this is a piece of paper, but you're going to pretend it's your suitcase. So as they get handed out, I want you to think for a minute about what it might be like for you if you had to leave home, if you were forced to flee your home without notice. You know, imagine that you're at the dinner table with your family, and you know that there's been some political tension. You've heard stories about people who've been arrested. You worry a little bit about what might be happening in your community. But without much notice, you hear off in the distance guns or bombs and the rumblings of tanks. And it's getting closer to your home, and you and your family are kind of confused and not sure what this is. And all of a sudden you hear a banging at the door, and you open the door and there are troops telling you to leave now. You grab your suitcase, and I'd like you just for a minute to either fold it in four or draw lines across. You have four squares. These are the compartments of your suitcase. And you have very little time to make a decision, and you can grab about four things. think for a minute about what those 4 things would be. And write that down in one of these squares. And so now you're out. You've lost your chance. If you didn't fill your 4 squares, it's too late. The house is not yours anymore. You've been taken out of your home. And I'm wondering what that feels like to you. And I wonder if anybody has the willingness to share what's on your paper.
I will grab passport, my degree, cash, or credit card.
Okay. So that was passport, degrees, cash, and credit card. Okay. Thank you for sharing.
I said a picture of my family,
Okay.
the Bible, and IDs.
Identification?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I put identification like passport, food and water, money, and my mala, prayer beads.
Okay. I'm hearing some themes. We have spirituality, economic security, and identity, whether it's in regards to your identity card or your degrees, which often are part of our identity. Yes?
Medications,
Okay.
clothing, blankets, food.
Basic needs items. Okay. Is there anybody in the room who'd be willing to share if you've actually been in this situation before and you've had to take items quickly?
From my experience, and this helped, citizenship documents, of course children and family, money if you have, and certificates and documents are very, very important.
So a lot of times when people leave, they don't actually have time to go hunting through their files for those documents. And they're fortunate if they happen to be handy. And I find it interesting that the things we wish we could take are sometimes the things we absolutely need to have, especially those degrees, I find. And the documents, because at some point when you go out, you have to prove that you're a refugee and you have to present yourself to the United Nations, and it's really hard to go through those processes without those documents. So, Amelia, did you want to contribute?
This is working. I was in that kind of situation. And what you mentioned, you actually do not think about your degrees or your education. The only things it matters at that time is your safety. So basically, I was in a situation myself and my family, and we find ourselves without any. You don't think about it, even though you have a couple minutes. You don't think what you need.
I just put down water and food, and I sang, it's really hard to do, what you do. And I didn't get the others filled in, and the whole time I'm sitting there doing that, I thought, I wouldn't have this kind of time to wonder how I'll fill those other boxes. And that taught me something as well, because even though I didn't fill the other boxes, you just said, you don't have time to do that, you just don't.
And there is other thing, you don't know where you're going, right? You don't know where you're going. Where are you going? What's going to happen in the next 5 minutes? You just you don't know.
Will I
And
need
just-
water, will I need, you know,
Your brain is shut down. So it's-
Well, for a lot of our community that we interact with, there has been a history of torture prior to that. Some people have been through those experiences and then they're back in their home. This sort of experience to us feels like the common denominator for most of the refugees that we work with, sort of the baseline stressful condition that occurs. Okay, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
Thank you for sharing what you have with us. And we're going to have some refugees data. Dr. Sharma have shared some refugee data. Over 20 years in the city of Buffalo, we have seen 15,000 resettled refugees. Actually, last year, 2014, that was the first time in 50 years where the city has a growing population. I believe it was because of refugees. And when you see the city of Buffalo, it's a city that is growing and is becoming more lively because it was kind of dying after the industrial shutdown that happened many years ago. So the refugees, I might say that refugees is not negative only, but you can see how people come to Buffalo. They can see how refugees have brought the best they have, and they are building the cities with the local people. So 35% of the population, the refugee population, they seem to have or struggling with the consequences of trauma or torture. I'm gonna develop more about that. That's the number 69,000 people, refugees resettled in U.S. In 2015, and we have 4,052 who were resettled in New York State, and between 2010 and 2014, 6,000 refugees have been resettled in Erie County. The Erie County is the area where Buffalo is. So these are refugee arrivals, 2014, that's 69,000. 2015, there was ceiling of 70,000. 2016, that will be at the end of this year, the U.S. will receive 85,000 refugees, and the proposed ceiling for 2017 is 100,000. So more refugees are coming in, and they will need those services, and they will need those services providers. Among those refugees, we expect more torture survivors. As I said before, we have 35% of refugees who are torture survivors. Torture is not something that is done in public. Torture is something that is done hidden. It's difficult to get the data. And most of the people who have been tortured, they don't like to talk about it. Because even talking about it is sometimes a very traumatic thing to do. So the data is not available, but most of the service providers estimate that 35% of the refugees and asylum seekers that we have has trauma or torture past history. So we have a small video. Yeah, I was gonna say something about
I realized that we didn't really sort of warn people ahead of time, or at least give people permission to personally select out of certain parts of our presentation. But some of the things that we talk about, and in particular this video, can be very difficult to watch. I myself, leave rooms regularly when I'm at trainings about torture. So, please just be forewarned. We get into some tough topics. If you want to walk around and check out, whatever you need to do. But I just didn't want anybody to be unaware as we press play on the video. Okay.
The lobby on the ground, one of the members of the rebel said he was hungry. So taking some test and cooking for food. The gash me here in my stomach. But when I opened my eyes, I had spent 5 days in the ECHO hospital.
They told me to do something very horrible, to move my clothes off, they smoke and they burn my you understand? Like they put me in a filthy bathroom and they wet all my clothes and left me there the entire night. It's not only physical torture, it's also mental, humiliation and all that.
Our clients talk about this again and again. I was treated worse than an animal. I was treated like a dog. You know, it's designed purposely to be humiliating and so debilitating. So absolutely, this is what we work on in therapy, to sort of get to the point where people can feel like it wasn't their fault.
Many of them have been tortured by people in authority, and some of them by people in authority who were healthcare professionals. So that issue has to be addressed up front.
Every healthcare person in the United States should be equipped emotionally, intellectually, to take this issue seriously, equip themselves with the ability to ask questions, the ability to provide counsel, support, referrals, or care. And I believe that we know so much now that a failure to do so becomes a kind of malpractice.
That video we selected because we thought that it sort of captured the basic information that we wanted to convey. It's a video that was made by another organization, not our own. Okay, so for some context, how many of you work in refugee resettlement organizations? Predominantly with refugees. Okay, so not many. So let me just give you a very basic overview. Refugee resettlement in the United States starts overseas, where people have to become recognized by the United Nations as refugee. At some point, they make the determination that they have to be resettled in another country. They can't go home, and the place they're at won't allow them to stay for very long. So they have to apply to come to the United States. It's a grueling, long screening process. At some point, if they're lucky, they could be approved for resettlement. We talked about the numbers. So for next year, we would anticipate 100,000 refugees to come to the United States. The reason for the increase is because of the Syrian crisis, and you've all heard about that developing on the news. So there are 10 or 11 different national organizations that do refugee resettlement around the country. Each of those national organizations has local affiliate agencies. So we are an affiliate of Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, or HIAS, HIAS. But there are affiliates here in Albany. There's Utica. We have folks in Rochester, all over the state, and then all over the country. So I've been doing this work a long time, and in all the years that I've done this work, the conversation pretty much remains the same. Are we doing enough? We have federal requirements to do core services, basic services, get people housing, into school, basic health screening, and get them jobs and economically self-sufficient as quickly as possible. It's like, 6 months. That's even generous in some regards. But many of us over the years have really felt that there's got to be something more that we do. We need to slow down. We need to take our time. We need to be more sensitive. We need to be more client-centered and let people sort of drive the speed, determine the speed at which they drive that train. So at our organization, we have been really interested in the Center for Victims of Torture in Minnesota. We felt that that's a model we wanted to strive for. And we decided that we needed to pursue specialized funding so that we could create this kind of embedded program in our agency. So we are an intensive case management, strength-based, client-centered model to support survivors of torture and their families in their healing process, with a particular emphasis on empowerment, and we do a lot through collaboration. So we intend to be peer-oriented. The staff who work at the organization, aside from myself, have all sort of had shared life experiences that make them sort of really extremely knowledgeable about what our clients have been through. We use a lot of technical assistance from national providers, and we talk a lot about trauma-informed care But we also think that there's a need to expand that concept to refugee trauma informed care, where we really need to be incorporating concepts of linguistic and cultural competency into that conversation in order for us to be truly effective and provide quality service. We're not a clinical model, we're not a medical model. We understand that the majority of our clients aren't seeking traditional mainstream American mental health services. If through the course of working with somebody it's determined that that would be a good referral, then we link people in with sort of hand-selected people in the community that we believe can do the work. One being Lakeshore Behavioral Health, where Ali works, and then also Jewish Family Service has an in-house mental health clinic, and so we will make referrals to that program as well. That is not our primary focus in the service delivery. We got seed funding from the State Health Foundation. We partner with another local organization for legal services and the University of Buffalo Department of Family Medicine. One of our important services is forensic evaluations for asylum seekers. So refugees come with benefits, they have status and access to benefits. Asylum seekers end up here a variety of ways and do not have access to any employment authorization, food stamps, Medicaid, they can't find any public housing, they're really pretty much homeless. And so one of our objectives is to try to help people get status so they can get to work and get to benefits. So we do a head-to-toe physical assessment to document the signs of torture, or we do a psychological assessment. And so we have a cadre of trained physicians and mental health providers who will do that work in collaboration with the University of Buffalo. And through this work, there's been a human rights initiative at University of Buffalo Medical School. So we have students who do all the scribing for those sessions, and they're actually in our office helping us do a lot of the coordination of that work. We currently are funded by the Office of Refugee Resettlement, Tim Kelly. He's our guy too. So they provide our core services. We're now a funded partner. We have some local community foundation funding as well. Now, Salah.
So as Pam mentioned, the program is partnership between JFS as a Jewish Family Service as the lead agency, and UB Family Service, Family Medicine, and Jemison. And we also collaborate. We have collaboration with other local agencies like Jericho Road. They have health clinics. They have the shelter as well, Libera Plaza. UB social work, Lakeshore Behavioral Health, Physicians for Human Rights. So the progress so far since 2013, we have served about 176 clients. These they come from, as you can see, from 20 countries. Most of our clients come from Middle East and Africa, Central Africa. We coordinated and conducted around 34 physical forensics, 28 psychological forensics, and out of these, we have a couple of cases which are already approved for asylum, and most of the remaining cases are still waiting for courts.
Okay, good morning. So I'm going to present a couple of cases. This is one of the successful cases. We have many successful cases. So many of our clients, it's so difficult to contact with them and bring them to our program. So I'm sure probably if you translate torture in your language, the people bilingual or trilingual, it's so difficult word. So we don't use, when we call, we don't use this this war, telling them we are from West Timor Center for Survival of Torture. We try to make it easy for them. Just mention like we are care manager, we are here to help you. There's some services. I'm sorry, yeah. So we focus on case management more than mention the mental health as Dr. mentioned that there's a stigma for this population and they don't want to talk about that. So this client, he's from Middle East. While we do outreach to ESL classes or some of resettlement agency to provide some orientation about the program. So I found this client come after me and when we start to talk about signs and symptoms, and he was hesitating to share this to primary doctor or people, and he came after me, he said, Ali, can you help? So I have these symptoms and I'm suffering every day. So we brought him. You find some people, they are communicate with you, and sometimes you find people you spend a lot of time just to reach them, like 2 months, just calling them. They don't feel trust or safe to communicate with people. So this person, he has a bachelor's degree in engineering. He lost all his family, and he don't know where's their body in his country. So the community helped him to leave his country, and he moved to another country. When Arab Spring started, there is another war starts in his new country. So spending another 3 years in the area with torture on. So he lost. He's going to Erie Community College. He's very successful, and he want to marry, and he want to find job. But see, there's a lot of challenging that face this person with. Almost tried 2 times to end his life. He was lost when he came to Buffalo in 2013. So have no community connection. So we try to help him with psychoeducation, refer him to mental health clinic, medical clinic. Also try to send him to find job, or also try to connect him with the social. Sometimes it's really important to link him with the religious organization, depending on his spirituality or social, to keep him busy. And we have many passion community. When I talk with them, I build connection with them. So I tell them, I have a client here after I take a consent. So can you do visit for this person? Just go with him out or shopping or something to keep this person busy and feel connected with the community and adjust the life here. So this is one of the successful, and he's doing wonderful every day. There is trauma, he has a depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, and difficult with adjusting the life. All of these, with coping skill mechanism and also with medication, he's living in a normal life. Still trauma in his life, but he's doing well day by day. The more he connects with school, with making family, big connection, going to spiritual faith-based place, so I see him a lot of progress in his life. Another case from Africa. So this lady, we spent a lot of time to reach her. The militia killed her husband and her older son. So and sometimes I speak Arabic language and Persian, but you find somebody speaking different language, so it's difficult to communicate, to call. So I need to hire an interpreter. So if this person call and she feels this is person from her community, she doesn't feel comfortable to tell, why you are calling, what's the reason, because probably for some people, renting phone, I heard from many of my clients, it's really traumatizes. Always they put it on silence, because the phone reminds them to tragedy or to things happening in their life, so they don't want to answer the phone. So for this lady with her son, she lived in Buffalo. She was sexually assaulted. She was raped there. She has PTSD, depression, and anxiety. having so difficult to adjust the life and living with her son. But when I meet with them, even I live in a war zone in Iraq, so every day when I meet with these clients, they inspire me to see there's a lot of, as the director mentioned, you see them, I mean, they have a hope, and there is a lot of strength inside them. So you just need to help them, I mean, reach these goals. So they suffer, and there's a beautiful saying, what does not kill you, make you strong, right? So we see many of these people, while they live these challenges in their life, so they still, want to reach their goals, especially with building rapport with them and helping them. So in our program, we focus on different areas in terms of housing, education, employment, safety, health, etc. And this is, play a big role in terms of anxiety, and all of these reduce their anxiety and help them to adjust their life. And in the same time, while we are provide these services, we provide psychoeducation, we provide some coping skills, and also make the client feel comfortable that it's okay when you feel, you have, symptoms, so it's okay to go to mental health clinic. We help them to normalize this, symptoms that while you have a headache or you have a stomach ache, you need to go to the doctor. You need now with sleeping problem, with nightmare, with flashback, you need to see a counselor. And many of our survivors, they used to connect with friends, and they consider you friends more than because you visit them. We have a very flexible program to do a home visit, to go with them, to sit in a coffee shop, to make it easy, not that formal, and spending more time with the client, so they feel that they are able to open to you and discuss their details about their lives to help them, and while they talk, they cure from these things. We see this client, she's very successful in terms of working on, focusing on her life and get benefit from the services.
Thank you, Ali. This is the PowerPoint that I was hiding there. Those are the things that we do, and we go to the care coordination is the middle of that. We do, as they both say, we are not psychiatrists, or, well, some of us are psychologists, but we don't work in that capacity. We work into working with the client, see what they need and what we can help them with. Then we refer them and try to make their life better. So I'll talk about those people, those who partner with these people. So, what do we do as care coordination? Again, I will emphasize the model for the Western New York Center for Survivors of Torture. As you've seen, many of the care coordinators, they have been through that transition of leaving their countries and coming here. So I think it's a good model because most of them, they understand what those clients go through. So it's easier for them to empathize, but also to understand what was that journey and what those people need to be integrated in this society with their problems. So at the beginning, we do an intake for the client. It can be, it's an official intake, but it can happen anywhere, depending on the circumstances. We see that person in most of the time, people come to us as referred from other agencies, so they know that the person has been tortured or has a torture history. So we see that person, we give an intake to be able to know exactly at what level that person has been tortured and what he went through, and we are able to know with him what services the person needs. we provide, as we say, the psychoeducation to these people because they come from different side of the world and they of course have their own belief in the way of doing things. We work with them to make them understand how is it here and work on their psycho side of things with that kind of education. We have many people, especially asylum seekers. As Pam said, asylum seekers, when they arrive here, they are not even recognized as a status. They don't have a status. Most of them, they have gone through torture because of their government, their political situation in their countries. So when they arrive to the immigration officer, they need a proof they have been tortured. So you don't have a document for that. If the government torture you, they don't give you a certificate for that. So when you arrive here after 2 or 3 years, the officer say, okay, we need proof. We know that in some countries, like in Congo, for example, the rebels have declared themselves that they use rape as their weapon. Besides the guns, they have rape as the weapon. So how do you prove that after 2 or 3 years? So we, in partnership with the University of Buffalo, we have people who do forensics, and they are able to provide a document to that person that proves that person has been tortured, either mentally or physically. So that person is likely to get asylum he's looking for if his case is proved credible. We also do referrals. As we see someone needs this kind of services, we refer that person to the best services he can get through agencies or government institutions, either hospitals or schools or other kind of services. We also have other supportive services. As we said, for example, many people have mentioned family problems. When the parents arrive here, especially actually in the orientation, they told them about the child protection, you know, the organization Child Protection Services. And they tell them how the child protection services is very, very tough. If you touch your kid, you're gonna be either in prison or they're gonna take your kids away. That's a shock for a parent who's coming from Africa, Asia, or any kind of the side, because the kids, when they do something bad, the parents have to correct the kid. But the first information they get from is that if you touch your kid or say bad word to your kid, you're gonna be in prison, you're gonna take your child away. So that is shock, but also it's something that creates something in the mind of the parent that I'm no longer in control of my children. What can I do? Most of the time they just let it go. They abandon their kids. They let them do what they want because they don't want to be in jail or have their kids taken away. So we try to help these parents with a parenting program to make the transition smoother and be able to continue to educate their children, but also with respecting the laws that they are in place. We have mental health services program. We have a special program that actually Pam initiated. It was her initiative, helping the deaf refugees. We have refugees, you know, we say that refugees have problems with communication, but imagine those refugees, they're deaf. Back in their country, they have a communication problem. Imagine when they arrive here, what happens to them? They use the sign language, the traditional sign language, just only between the family. They know if their mothers do something, they know what she's talking about. Only the person arrive here, if you go to the doctor, if you go anywhere, how that person is going to communicate. So there's a class of American Sign Languages for deaf refugees and other services around that class that help them to integrate better. So as I say, we have an approach as the person comes into our offices through a referral, or we spot that person in this or that condition. We do an inquiry and the identification of the issues. We try to work with the client, and the client has to participate because we cannot pretend to know the person more than he knows himself. We try to help him discover himself and discover what he needs, what kind of help they need. With this orientation that comes with the transition, we try to help him understand what he's going through and what he needs. And we do education, as we said before. We advocate. Most of the time we have a client who has 9 legal cases with the government, IRS and all this kind of stuff, and child protection. That client doesn't know what to do. The client doesn't want to go to work because he's saying that if you go to work, anyway, the money is going to gain, the IRS is going to take it back. So how do you help that person? We do advocacy, we work with the IRS and child protection to make them understand what is the person going through, how they can help him get better, maybe pay them back after if possible. We facilitate our clients. Most of the time we act as drivers, take our clients to the hospital if there is something going on at home with the parents, between parents and kids, we rush there during the night, we get a call during the night, we go there, try to help them, try to orient them. What do you take your question? Who can understand you more? What do you need? So you do all of the stuff. We do facilitate, and we document all our clients. We have a database for our clients, of course, respecting the regulation about the privacy of information about clients, but we document our client cases. So I'm gonna let Ali, we talked about community involvement. Ali is going to take you through community involvement. Thank you.
Thank you. So, since 2008, when I came to this country, I came from a culture that when I walk in my city, everyone say hello to you. It's very social connected, and you know these people from generation to generation. So coming here, it's difficult. I want to say hello to my neighbor, and sometimes he look to me, who's this person? Say hello. So I found it so difficult to adjust life here. So I started to learning how to organize people, and I found it is living in a war zone and coming here. What helped me, my community helped me, my faith, my family, friends. This is really important in our life to have this connection. So if any crisis we have, so we found this support system. So when refugee come here, I said, let me go for leadership training. And I went to New York City and I came back. I started to work with immigrant and refugee to organize community. And we have very passionate leaders from different community to help them. We sit monthly to find what is the priority. This is the passion, this is not related to my work. So just to help them, what is the priority needs for refugees in Buffalo? So what we're supposed to do, we have family, we have, kids, we have problem growing every day. And service provider, they are doing great, but our job starts from morning until, the second day, our phone is always ready. So we are not able to say no if somebody in a crisis in the police department, and if they are in a hospital with language barrier. So the community members playing the big roles in a society. So these passion leaders, we provide training to them monthly to help their community. So when I start my, professional work as a social worker and also a care coordinator with Jewish Family Service, I found this is really perfect. So there is imam or pastor call and said, Ali, I try to help this person in terms of using spirituality, healing. I found it so difficult. Can you help? So we go out, or they send these people to us to link them with the faith organization or trying to help them with the services in Buffalo. So we see a lot of community like Burmese, Bhutanese, other organization in Iraqi, they started the 501c3 and they became more self-sufficient in terms of serving on people, refugees serving refugees. This term, to help their own people, and there's a lot of service provider organization helping the community. So we found it is really helpful because, I see the client for an hour, and this client go back to home. So our focus is how to create safety environment around this client in terms of his culture, in terms of they have an emergency things. Do you have friends? Do you have people you know in your city? So to help me in this part, because you can't do everything. So you have to link all these people with their community to participate in any activities, cultural things, food celebration, and keep this person busy. So this is our main work, is to link our client with religious communities and also with community members.
Good afternoon now. Ali mentioned refugees. Yes, I agree with that. But also we do have nonprofit organizations that help refugees as well. One of the organizations is PATH, People Against Trafficking Human, and it's a great organization. And I have approximately like 10 clients referred to these organizations just because they're awesome. They care about people. They offer different classes, such as like art therapy, music therapy, anger management, counseling, one-on-one, group counseling, like you name it, and they have it. What I feel regarding is one of my clients mentioned once, like that's the best thing that happened to her, and she came in 2011 while in the United States. So we also do have other organizations such as Stitch Buffalo, which are nonprofit organizations. There are two ladies, they work with the refugees women. There is like 50 women. They learn how to stitch, and what they're doing, they're selling their products, and 75% out of the products, when they sell it, they give it to them, and for like 25% they buy the material. So finding that kind of places, it's very helpful for people throughout the trauma. Before I talk about our challenges as a group and challenges we dealing daily on the work, I'm going to back up a little bit. And the piece of paper, you already have it. Can you please do it over? And once you come from your country, once you left everything behind you, you're so happy you come to the United States. As Dr. Sharma says, you start again. So you're so happy, you're so excited, you're safe. You feel safe. And you come to the United States and you go to the agency. They send someone, or they find a way to give you. So I'm going to share my experience. So this is my experience. Once we came to the agency, they gave us a piece of paper. You guys have it? So now please follow my directions. And if you have any questions, please raise your hand and let me help you. Okay? Molim vas da napišete vaše prvo ime i prezime. Vašu adresu i broj telefona. Ako imate bilo kakve pitanja, molim vas da me pitate, ja sam tu da vam pomognem. Ok? Stvarno mi je žao, ja ne znam što me pitate, so pitam još jednom. Stvarno mi je žao. Vaše prvo ime i prezime, adresa i broj telefona.
أنت جاي شنو جاي تحكين؟ شنو تريدين؟ شنو المواضيع اللي جاي تطلبينها؟ أول مرة أنا أسمع عن الموضوع، تقدرين تفهمين لنا شنو القضية؟ شنو الموضوع جاي يتهم؟ يعني رجاء.
Stvarno mi je žao. Vaše prvo ime i prezime, adresa i broj telefona.
pouvez écrire votre adresse et votre téléphone sur le papier qu'on vous a donné. C'est bon? C'est très facile. Ok?
Okay? Let's try this in English. Simple as this. Can you please put your first name, your last name, your address, and your phone number? You guys going to be able to do that? Of course you are. Because I'm speaking your language. And when I came to US, nobody spoke Bosnians, or Arabic, or French. I'm talking 15 years ago, and I'm so glad we grow a lot. Yes, we are. So now, we do have our challenges, but we also do have solutions. We have access to many things, such as language lines. But what about translation of interpreters? I want to share a story. I had a client another day, and I was using a language line, and in the middle of conversation, I had an interpreter saying, like, she took her time to recover. She was crying. She didn't know who the patient was, but she heard the story. So it is hard. Stigma. You all know about stigma. It is a big issue that we have to deal with every single day. We do have our staff trained and multicultural, and I do understand people who are coming from Bosnia, from Serbia, from Croatia, but I do not understand people who are coming from Iraq, Iran, Sudan, Africa. They have different culture. For me, it's a learning experience every single day. Before I get my client, before I get a client assigned to me, what I do, I Google. I Google where the person is coming from. Who is the person? What is a culture like? What I have to know, basic things I have to know about the person, just to show them I care. And I do care. So, funding for support groups and expanded peer monitoring program. Even though we try and we want to help people, there is a big problem. And you all know that funding is a big problem. So, lack of systematic supports of asylum seekers. Asylum seekers, they survived a trauma back in their country, and they are surviving a second trauma once they come here to the United States. Even though we want to help them, we simply, sometimes we don't have a solution. We offer them the basics such as food, shelter, Medicaid, transportation, sometimes, but many times we are not able to. So we have not enough legal services providers. Yes and no. Yes, we do have legal services providers. But yes, we do have a lot of refugees and asylum seekers who need help, and there is a long waiting list. So that's basically what we are dealing with on a daily basis. I do my job because I'm passionate about it and I love it. So that's what gives me strength, like day after day. I want to be there for those people to help them move forward. Maybe they're mentally sick, maybe they're not, but it's always good to have someone on your side to tell you you're okay. Thank you.
So, we mentioned before we started in 2013, but we are evolving. There is a lot of growth going on through this. We have weekly meeting, team meeting, which will assess what we have done and the way forward. So one of our goals for growth in the future, where we need, although Ali mentioned the involvement of the communities, but we still need more involvement of some of the communities, and we have to, we're looking for the ways to tap into that. We have also the self-care for us as care coordinators. and the interpreters, as Amanda mentioned, the traumatization of interpreters, and also care coordinators. For us, for the care coordinators, most of the time, the weekly team meetings, these are venues for us to discuss those type of challenges, to share our concerns and support each other, and also we always operate as a team in and out our institution. We have lots of events in the community. We participate in that. This is also help us a lot in our theory. Also, we need to raise awareness of the trauma-informed care, especially for refugees. People talk a lot about trauma-informed care, but for refugees, there is a lot of cultural competency needed because people come from different cultures and they have lots of challenges when they come and they want to access healthcare system and navigate all the providers in the U.S. So we want to introduce that, or we have actually, there is a training that we're going to go through with UB Social Work. It's on trauma-informed care, which I think will help us a lot. And we will see if we can at least help in introducing this refugee trauma-informed care. There is, yesterday I remember James, I think from Uganda, asked a question about prevention. Instead of just we deal with treating people, we have to work in prevention. And so we want to advocate, we want to do advocacy for elimination, or at least reduce elimination. I think it is a little hard, but at least reduce these torture practices in the globe.
So we're going to finish up with a video that was made in Buffalo. I love this video. I'm really glad that we can share it with you. And I think it really summarizes the environment that we work within and the message of hope that we receive every day.
At night, I was in the city named Mansour about 7 p.m.
One day my son got to the school.
I just heard some gunshot and everything, and people came and knocked the door, broke the door, and took everybody outside.
And after a while he came back because he said there's a man, he's dead on the glass.
People in the street, they stopped me. They were killing people around me. They tried to kidnap me from the car.
They are shooting the people in front of my house.
And we start to run, and once they turn back to see us running away, they start to shoot at us. They're gonna ask my family for money, and they're gonna kill me after that.
I was young, but I could see what was going on, and it was hard to see.
It was so horrible.
It was so dangerous to stay home.
So I decided to.
Life in Bosnia before Bosnia.
We were living like peacefully. I grew up a good life because my mom's family were good financially.
I had a small business, my restaurant over there.
We have some problem, we have some good, it's normal.
But eventually, like without any money or anything, we just started one day. We were outside when bombing started, so that was kind of unexpected.
I left when I was 11 years old.
8 years old.
I was 16.
Our parents said that, okay, we need to do a bus ride.
We were told we're going to the city for the amusement park.
We didn't know that we are living for forever.
Almost all the Iraqi people, they can't live in the camp.
We were never in a refugee camp.
I lived in a refugee camp.
About 2 years in a refugee camp.
I grew up in a refugee camp.
You don't know when you're gonna have it.
I think at one point we were going to end up in Finland, and then at another point we were going to end up in Sweden.
Because a lot about this actually screening before we get approval.
Finally, they told us you're going to end up in Buffalo, New York. We thought it was New York City, but it wasn't.
Coming to the United States is also one of the challenging things.
That is a very strange transition, 180. Everything was hard.
For 3 days, we didn't even leave our home. English was completely out of my mind.
English was small.
I couldn't talk to anybody. Like in school, I was just by myself. So I remember being asked, "What's your name?" and my answer was yes.
Everything was different. First of all, the weather.
It was my first time seeing big buildings.
This is the first time in my life I sleep on a mattress. We planned to do bus and we were stuck for like 3 hours because I didn't know there is a street you should move down if you want to get out.
And then finally, my dad decided, you know what? I'm gonna leave. I see a corner store that people are coming in and out. I'm gonna walk there. And my mom, I remember looking out of the window, making to see if he makes it back safely. And then he came back all happy because the owner of the corner store was Yemeni, so he speaks Arabic. That made my dad's day.
We thought that there is only one kind of people, but when we arrived here and there is like white people, Asian people, African people, a lot of people, so, oh okay, so maybe we are good too.
I started to looking for a job just after a couple of months.
My first job is a mechanic.
I work in medical village.
My first year of college.
Right now I work as a entrepreneur and I love that job.
When you start job, you feel proud for yourself.
My story started with 850. I was so happy.
I help other people wear my shoes.
Every day I call my dad, are you proud now?
I'm just happy to be here and go out to school as every kid's supposed to do.
I feel that this community make me feel very welcome.
I decided only one way to pay back to those people. I'm not rich, so I'm not going to pay back as a financial. I decided to join the armed forces. Until today, I'm serving here about 13 years.
What do you feel like you've left behind and what do you miss the most about life there?
I miss my whole life. It's not easy to live with the people that you love.
I guess you had a sense of connection, you had a sense of belonging. I'm still searching for that.
I like how everything goes here, but it doesn't change me much because I still have a sense of where I came from.
To be honest with you, I don't miss my country. Because here I found what I missed. I want to be more, I want to be better, you know.
What is my dream?
There are a lot of dreams.
My dream was to go to school, which I went for like 8 years. That feeling when I graduated, that was like something like
One dream come true that I buy a home for the first time.
What's your dream for the future?
I wish that I could be a singer. Stop. It happened. When I saw my kids, they grow up in safety place and they study what they want and they don't need to do something they don't like yet. That's the dream, but I need more.
My name is Makile.
I'm Nadine Yusuf.
It's Madi.
My name is Nasira Fayed. I'm from Iraq.
Bhutan.
Burundi.
Mama,